Thank you for coming to the October 20th, 2016 Board of Trustees meeting. And do I have a motion to return to open session?
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
I move to adopt the agenda.
Second.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes. At this point, I'd like to come to the public hearing portion of our meeting. I'd like to open the public hearing for Mayerson zoning application, case number 2-2016. With that, do I have a motion to, we have a request, oh, go ahead, Paul.
This case is case number 2-2016. This is a requested zone change for property located at 1339 and 1357 Nagel Road. And the zone change request is from B single family to DD multifamily. The Zoning Commission recommended denial of the case to the trustees, and the applicant has submitted a letter requesting that the Board of Trustees continue the case so that they can address some of the Zoning Commission's concerns. And there's a letter before you and a motion for your consideration.
I move to adopt the continuance.
I'll second that.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes. Well, with that, then, we will close the public hearing, and this case will be continued. That means that
We won't close it. The case will be
continued till it comes before to give the applicant time to address some of the concerns. It's not mean we're not making any decision on that here tonight, so I don't want anyone to make the assumption that we are. The paper's article was kind of a little bit misleading. Vicki, do we want to address that? Paul, would you address that? So these folks, I saw the article in the paper and I was concerned because it made the assumption that we were making a decision on that tonight, and clearly that's not the case.
Well, once the Zoning Commission makes a recommendation to the trustees must at least open the case within 30 days of the Zoning Commission's decision. So therefore, we had to at least open the case, and this side of the property was posted. The applicant, though, has requested a continuance so that they can at least, attempt to address some of the concerns that were raised at the Zoning Commission meeting. So in the applicant's letter, they are requesting a continuance until the December the 15th meeting. At that time, the case will be back before the trustees at the December 15th
But
meeting.
these folks want to know they'll be able to, that the applicant will come before the Zoning Commission again?
They will not, we don't know yet until, a plan has been resubmitted to the township.
Okay. Well, I think that's the question that they want to know.
But there'll be an opportunity for the public to comment when the public hearing continues, when it resumes in December.
I guess I don't, I just have to have some clarification, and this might not be the right form. But Mr. Mayerson's come back 3 different times and has been given 3 opportunities to meet the request of the zoning commission. I don't know if that was included in this letter, but he's had 3 opportunities to meet the zoning board's requirements and has failed to meet them repeatedly. So I guess I'm confused why, how much time? Is this going to go on for?
No, it's not. No, it's not. I mean, it's not going to go on for years and years. He's asked for, I see the letter here that he's asked for a continuance, and the property is under contract, if I'm not mistaken, or it is under contract, yes. So, I mean, this is just a courtesy. It's not anything that we've done before to him, so he did come to us. This is the first time we've been asked for a continuance on this.
From you guys?
From us, correct. So,
It might be more appropriate if we could. The case has been continued, and there are questions that the audience has. Perhaps Mr. Drury, or we can step outside for those in the audience that have questions on this. It will not be heard tonight.
Yeah.
And it's inappropriate for us to go back and forth
But
outside
when-
of that
yeah.
whole process. So if there are questions, we can try to address that. That's why we put the applicant's letter in the mailing, so that you're aware that that was being requested, but the board has to actually open the hearing to continue the hearing. So we can't, it's not a foregone conclusion that that would happen. It's just a formality, and it's the process that we have to operate under. So it might be best, again, rather than back and forth questions, Mr. Drury, are you able to go in the hallway? Perhaps we can take those outside.
I just never heard when the property was available for sale. I never got that notice for opportunity, because that's the problem I have. You know, why am I excluded from that opportunity? Why? I'm just asking.
We have public forum.
We have a public forum process later in the meeting. You're welcome to ask.
You're welcome to ask those questions.
Hang
then.
around.
Yeah. That'll be in like 5 minutes or however long.
2.
No, we got to do
So
that.
if you want to ask Paul a question and get the answers, go ahead and take a second. Okay. Anyone else want to go out? I mean, just not to disturb it, but if you want to go outside, please do. And then you come back, we'll have plenty of time for the public forum. At this point, we're going to open up presentations and recognitions. Were you doing
Thank
that?
you.
Josh, no.
I will take the first one. I have the distinct pleasure of honoring a township resident tonight, Mr. Kyle Fahrenkamp. Mr. Fahrenkamp, Anderson Township resident, completed the Badwater Ultramarathon this summer in California's Death Valley. The race is known as the world's toughest foot race. It is a 135-mile course starting at 279 feet below sea level in the Badwater Basin, traverses 3 mountain ranges and ends at an elevation of 8,360 feet at Whitney Portal, the trailhead to Mount Whitney. It takes place annually in mid-July when the weather conditions are the most extreme and temperatures reach over 130 degrees. Consequently, only a select group of elite runners are allowed to even enter the Badwater, and very few people, even among the ultramarathoners that compete, are capable of finishing this grueling race. Only 783 people on the planet have ever completed Badwater Ultramarathon since its inception. Kyle and his support crew finished the race in 38 hours.
Wow.
Kyle is with us tonight. He's a proud husband to Paula and father of Isabel and Julia, whom attend Wilson Elementary. Kyle is also a volleyball coach at the Anderson Township Park District, and they moved to Anderson in June of 2015. This says Kyle and his family couldn't be happier with their decision to move to one of to this kind of community, and often refer to moving to Anderson as their best decision, as I'm sure a lot of people in this room tonight agree with you. With that, I'd like to recognize you formally with a certificate.
Well, something that needs to be responded to because he's making a question. Kyle, could I ask you a question? Yes. Number one, at any point during that race, did it seem like a bad idea?
Quite a few times that actually crossed my mind.
And most importantly, would you do it again?
So I asked that a lot, and the quick answer is yes, because I know what I could do better, and I think I could run it faster. And knowing what I know now, don't get me wrong, it's a dream race, and running all that way, we're dealing with a golf ball going on. But knowing what I know now, I want one more crack at it because I think I can do it in a faster time. So, one more time.
Wow.
How many people actually do it twice? Are there a lot?
There were 98 of us invited this year. There's thousands that apply. And it took me probably a good 4 or 5 years of applying and doing some work to get into the race. And,
Wow.
So I was actually allowed in this year.
Wow. Well, congratulations.
Impressive.
Thank you.
We're glad you're an Anderson Township resident.
All right. Now, we've been waiting on this day for a little while, so Chief Ober.
All right, thank you, Mr. President. If I could call up Jason Bryce, Ryan Fields, Matthew Isaacs, and Matthew Corse. They have completed our recruit class 2016-2. on Friday, August 26th. They're on the job. They replaced, resigned, and retired firefighters. And Kyle, we do a lot with these firefighters. They do PT and everything, so maybe we'll get with you and see if we can improve our programming. You know, these guys, they did a great job, but I'm sure they're back there going, wow, we're glad we didn't have to do that with Chief Miners here. So congratulations on behalf of the fire department. A little bit about our recruit class. These firefighter paramedics already have their state certifications, and in our hiring process, we put them through rigorous testing, and then we put them through 4 weeks of Anderson Township. A little bit about how we operate our apparatus, and we then graduate them. And at this time, I'd like to have our Fiscal Officer, Ken Dietz, swear them in, please.
Seems like I've seen you gentlemen for a couple months now. But I'd like to offer to administer the oath of office to you all. So if you will raise your right hands and repeat after me. I, and please state your names. Do hereby swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Ohio, the policies and procedures of the Board of Township Trustees, Township Trustees of Anderson Township, and to ethically and faithfully discharge the duties of my office. You're sworn in. Congratulations.
This is easier. Thank you, Mr. Prophet. Congratulations. Thank you. Hey, guys, good job.
Congratulations.
Sorry we made you wait another.
Oh, here we go. Hi, congratulations. Welcome aboard. Thank you.
Do it again.
Thanks, guys.
If you
Good
could
job.
step back up here for just a second, your badges will be handed to you by, I think, a significant other, friend, family member, if that can occur at this time. Or anyone who has, there you go.
We don't need badges.
Or Mark, or one of your lieutenants, who also was in charge of the recruit class. Oh,
We need a picture of that.
Oh,
Who's our official photographer?
He's back there.
Okay.
there we go. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Congratulations.
okay, now we will open the public forum section of our meeting, and I'd like to remind everybody, individuals who wish to address the board should make non-repetitive points as clearly and concisely as possible, limiting their comments to a maximum of 5 minutes. Speakers are asked to state their name and address for the record. I'd also like to remind you that if you do have a question about anything, this isn't really the forum to go back and forth, but you can, if we feel that we can address the question for the benefit of everybody here, we'll be happy to do that. It's not a back and forth, though, type arrangement. So please just come up here to the podium, state whatever is on your mind.
First of all, thank you very much for allowing me to do an impromptu disclosure. I come in peace. My name is Scott Winters. I've been a resident here for 2 years. I live at 8015 Stonegate Drive, which happens to be within the 200 feet of the current proposed property development. I am in real estate myself in other states, not here in Ohio. And one of the attractions that my wife and I had to moving up here was the fact that as we looked around, there's a lot of green space. And at the same time, I'm also in business, so I understand the need for Anderson to prosper, and I really appreciate your consideration for use of the land in a way that'd be beneficial for everyone. So I'm glad that you're considering that. But, you know, just based as a general public looking at the signs that are posted for this particular green space, it says that do not damage or alter in any way. And I guess I'm concerned because I never thought or dreamed that this property was going to be available or that it'd be rezoned. You know, strategically having a landonium there and with the woods and so forth was part of our buy-in, if you will. There's only two choices, here or Mason, to find a one-story basement ranch-style house. That was it 2 years ago. And there's a need for them. I would, if there is a consideration, number one, to all of a sudden change this green space to a commercial or a development property, I'm not anti-growth or anything. I would just wish that there was an opportunity for people who are invested locally in Anderson to have an opportunity to invest in Anderson. And there's, you know, obviously I'm not the only one, but I don't want to speak on behalf of anyone else, but I was surprised in talking to my neighbors and local owners of some of the businesses around that they weren't aware of this either. So it seems like the public, residents, and even some of the people being affected by the proposed things that are going on were not aware. And I don't know how to fix that, or if I'm just missing the boat on something. But I just ask for your consideration that, you know, residents first all the way, that, you know, if our businesses and our taxpayers here can have an opportunity to improve our great township, then let us know about it. You know, don't leave it for outside poor. You know, I won't say anything bad, but there's a lot of people I think that have more interest and concerns about the well-being of our township if you give the opportunity for us to act on that. And I'd also like to say I really appreciate your community service. I've worked out in Beatty, Nevada, in the desert there during one summer, and I also served in law enforcement, and I really appreciate the firemen that have taken the oath today as well, and appreciate your recognition, and especially for the recognition of our country's precious flag. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Now, you guys were outside and talking to Paul. We're in public forum, so if you have any comments that you'd like to address the board, please come up, state your name and address. Absolutely, that's why I'm telling you, we're still doing it. It's still open.
Rebecca Lang, 1406 Harcourt. Just a really quick question. History speaking, or going back, as you the trustees, something being denied by zoning board, how often in the past have you guys overturned something like that?
Ooh, that's a good question. We'll address that here shortly. We won't ask you right now, but we will address that here.
That's fine. Thank you.
Hi guys, I think you all know me, Steve Wood, 8109 Pine Terrace Drive. I think one of the most people that we talked to out in the area, and I think most of you guys know this, but I'd like for it to be on public record. I hope more people pay attention to it, is there were 3 caveats that were listed in the paper, that landscaping, the primary one, no plan for the current house that's under contract to be sold. And those really aren't the primary concerns of the people in the area. The primary concerns are the density, and that wasn't listed in the rebuttal of the zoning board for you guys. And that really needs to be paid attention to, because right now you're trying to stuff too many people into this property. And in our opinion, hopefully, knowing what we know now, that the property was appraised for a high-density multifamily, we would like to see the deal renegotiated so that Mr. Meyerson could come in under a different plan. And respectfully, I would like to see you guys deny this next time go around, and maybe put that out to him right now that hey, it's not the proposal of building in general, it's the densities that are in there. We would like to see them use their own ingress and egress rather than changing lanes and changing things on Pine Terrace Drive or Nagle Road, which is going to jam up Pine Terrace Drive, Sacred Heart, and everything else. So respectfully, we would like to see a little more planned unit development up in the front end on Nagle Road and possibly maybe keep it to two-story buildings back in the back end. And if that means renegotiating the deal with the township, then we feel that would be an appropriate way to proceed. And hopefully, with some open discussion, maybe that can happen and he doesn't waste a lot of time. So that's kind of the feedback we're getting from different people. We appreciate you guys' service and go from there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi.
Pete Ackerman, I live at 8064 Sacred Heart. I'd just like to agree with everything Steve just said. And I'd like to kind of add that like, I work in healthcare and all I do are budgets, and I understand like bottom line, the township needs the funds, and I get that. But negotiation-wise, Mr. Mayerson has shown a strong interest in this property. And I know that initially his first offer for the higher density zoning change for the project that he's proposed is very tempting, with probably being the most income that the township would see when you have that many residents in there. I think that a good balance can be struck, and I think he would still be very interested in the property if we were to kind of tone down and scale down the zoning change to a different level, to a different kind of mark, and say, all right, we'd love to have you guys in here, we'd love to have you build this. You know, give us your next idea, maybe one step down, maybe two steps down, maybe like what else were you thinking? I'm sure he's not going to walk away. I think that it would be great for the township to develop that property. I just think going from 0 to 10 on the way that this project is now, I mean, I would be tempted to sign on the dotted line too with what I'm sure he's offering and what it is reflected going to bring the township in taxes and other kinds of revenue for bringing people in. But I just wanted to let you guys know I definitely see the conflict that you guys are going to be under to kind of decide how this would go and what's best for everybody. But just living in that area, I think that the project as proposed is kind of an overkill for the area. I think that the character will change, everything from traffic to the businesses and people and interest in property. I don't know. I think that we could do better on a deal. Yeah. So thanks for your time, guys. Appreciate all your help. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. With that, just want to make sure you had the opportunity to come up. With that, we'll close the public forum section of the meeting, get to trustee comments, and we will start with Dee.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you all for coming, because I know you're passionate about your issue, so I appreciate you coming out on a rainy Thursday night. And I just wanted to congratulate all the firefighters, and Kyle's gone, but that's amazing. That's all I have to say.
Josh, do you have anything?
No, but I will just remind, since it's a public meeting, that on, was it July 21st?
Yes.
I did recuse myself from that specific case, so I just want to make sure that's...
It's out there. I want to thank everyone for coming. I'm a little, when I read the paper as you did, I was a little bit remiss because I know what we discussed with Sheila and the inferences from the article. How many people thought we were going to make a decision tonight? And yeah, it was frustrating because I read the same article and that's not the information that was passed along. I'm not blaming her in particular, but just the article was open to interpretation and that's what everybody thought. I read it and I was like, what's she talking about? We're not doing that. So your input is appreciated. I will ask if, Vicki, do you have a problem maybe addressing a couple of the questions right now?
Just one of the questions that was raised, and again, I understand during public forum the public is allowed to say whatever it chooses, but a lot of the comments that were made are appropriate for the public hearing that actually occurs. The board cannot comment on that outside of the public hearing. The one question that was raised, ma'am, you asked specifically how many times the Board of Trustees historically had overturned zoning commission decisions. And, you know, I can't tell you off the top of my head. I don't think it is frequent, but each case is specific and distinct, and it would be unfair to say that X amount of time the cases are overturned, because each one is separate and distinct, and each one gets the board's specific decision. And this board is fairly new, so that has not occurred in this board's tenure. So trying to compare something that a prior board did to what's going on now is apples to oranges. So I just wanted to point that out. And I think that addresses all the specific questions
One
that
more
were
question
raised.
they had was, Steve, you might want to grab this one, but the property for sale was for sale. How was that knowledge disseminated? That was another one. Vicki, you want to take that?
Yeah, I
believe you had that question.
Yeah, I just want to point out that the Ohio law does not require that the township sell property by public bidding. We do have the authority, however, to sell property that's no longer needed for public purposes under terms determined by the board.
If I might add, it was indicated that is township green space.
That is correct.
Also, it's not township.
Yeah, that's
It
another
is
thing that was said.
It's not designated.
One of the things with, what's often confused, and I'll give you a clue as far as when you see the word green and the separate word space, that is often referred to, or open space. Green space capitalized, one word, refers to the almost 700 acres that the township has that was land that was donated, purchased at a discount, that is protected in its natural state. That is not green space property. Some open space property is maintained under the Green Space Fund, but it was a ball field for many, many years, as many of you know. It was utilized by the Park District. We utilized it for storage of materials for Hurricane Ike debris. It is not green space in the legalized term.
I do have one question for those that are new to Anderson Township. Many, many moons ago, the property that the original Kroger's was sitting on, across from Forest Hills Kroger's, was where the original Anderson High School was. That property had been sold, and then when our township grew, we needed land. And they were struggling trying to find land, and that's why Naval Middle School's there, because they were away apart, to be able to do that. Do you have a plan for whatever empty land you have in Anderson Township when our schools need more land and more space? I mean, I just want to make sure that we're looking down the road as we have more children, we need more schools, more high-tech schools, more fields for all the different activities and stuff.
And ma'am, and
Are you readily available?
I don't want to answer this question unless the board is comfortable, because this is outside of public forum as far as the back and forth. But there is a comprehensive plan that the township has. It is online, and we are updating that plan right now.
Right.
We are accepting public comment through October 31st, so I would encourage you to look at that
Yeah,
comprehensive.
we have hearings on that kind of
And there's also
stuff.
some displays out in the
So-
atrium, I believe.
Basically, what I'd like to say, since I think I'm still in public or trustee comments, I guess.
I'm sorry, sir.
Sorry. Is this is good for you to get involved. And it's good that you're asking these questions, because you asked a question. Yes, we do have a comprehensive plan that we're reviewing and is updated, and that is the appropriate venue for people to get involved and get engaged. Not that this isn't, that's not what I'm trying to infer, but you know what? Being involved is good for the township, and being an engaged populace is good for the township. I think everybody wins. So that's what I'd like to add to your comments as well. As far as something you said about, you know, the schools setting land aside for the schools, it's a theoretical idea, but we're talking about two different entities.
If I could, because I'd like to just comment on the planning side.
Go ahead.
Outside, most of the folks that are still in the audience outside with Mr. Drury and myself walking through some of this, but I'll speak specifically to the site, and then I want to touch on the fact that this board, or prior boards in the last few years, have sold numerous pieces of property that we've deemed as excess, and those have stimulated the development you see behind Buddy Rogers. Those are properties next to a water tower. We went through all the properties that we had to determine what is in our future and what is not. The school district does the same thing. We sit on those committees. We engage with the school district and the park district. But at the end of the day, the school district sold the property across the street. The school district made the decision to build on land that they already own at Nagel and State. I'll speak to this property because we've been involved with this property for a dozen years or
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
with this property. We went through an exhaustive planning process in 2004, 5, and 6, and I think this email, Paul, is it on our website still? If not, we can put it on there, because we outlined the history of planning on this site. We've spent the better part of a decade or more planning for this site, and we actually went through a zoning hearing to build public works facilities on there. When we realized those weren't in the financial best interest of our community, we made decisions and reinvested in our existing infrastructure. We continued to hold the property for 6 more years. We've ultimately determined it's not in the best interest of us to own that property and maintain that property in its current state. So that is outlined. The Mayerson family that owns half of the abutting frontage of this development came to us in 2004, came to us in 2005 and 2006. They've been there through this whole process, indicating that if and when we would choose to sell it, they are very interested. So there's been that relationship for at least a decade or more. And again, the email outlines all the plan iterations that we've gone through. We looked at the site for office, we looked at it for retail, we looked at it for housing, we looked at it for a whole host of things, cemeteries and other things. Ultimately, the appraisal came back and there was a use that they're proposing that we felt was consistent with what's needed, consistent with what's in our plan, and so that's the decision the board made unanimously to proceed. That's kind of where we're at. So we are very much in the planning mode, and I would hope that while folks may not agree with the ultimate decisions that are made one way or another, that it's not done knee-jerk, it's not done rubber stamp, it's done through a very methodical process. So again, I'm happy to talk to folks afterward. I think that 2 or 3 page summary outlines everything that we've looked at for this site over those years, and I mean, obviously we're still not done looking at uses for the site.
And given the bachelor, for me, has been very helpful, just hearing what you and the two of you said out front, was extremely helpful from my standpoint.
Yeah, very interesting to know that it's never been considered to change zoning parameters for it in all these years of discussion. So
No,
that's
I
good.
think that really helps me understand.
Thank you. Thank you for asking the questions. I hope.
I know that there is some planning going on, but just not too many years ago, Mayerson wanted to expand Stonegate next to it. The apartment buildings in there, that was actually denied. So not taking that into account, that the residents in the area basically tried to stand up against that, and the zoning committee changed that, and then to just think that, okay, well, we'll go ahead and approve the zoning change for this plot of land. Very much identical to what was denied before. Doesn't seem like a good one.
Communities change as well. We need to respect and understand that. So I think we probably need to continue this
Yeah.
discussion during a zoning hearing, not during a public forum or a trustee comment period.
One more question? I mean,
Isn't there already a development that's been approved, a high-density development on 5 Mile right here? Hasn't that?
this one right here you're talking about? Well, that one is not going to be coming to fruition. No. It's been someone made the statement, I mean, I don't want to speak out of turn here, but it just looks like it's
We don't have confirmation either way.
one way, but
Yeah.
the initial design is not going to work. So that's what we're hearing, and sometimes that's what happens when, you know, a developer comes in and the numbers don't work, and then they back out of a project. It's just normal. So, no, to answer your question, I would say it's looking less likely than before.
When was that?
Oh, I don't know if it's...
Sir, I'm happy to speak with you afterward. This is during trustee comments in respect of the board.
So, I mean, thank you for the questions. I mean, we just don't want you guys to come away with this thinking that, you know, we're trying to keep something from you, but this really isn't the appropriate venue for back and forth like this. But I appreciate the question. Okay, so now, can I close public or trustee comments? I think I will. I can do that. We'll now move to our fiscal officer, Ken Dietz.
Thank you. As I say, almost every month, the financial reports are coming in. The revenues are a little bit better than we had projected. The expenses are less than what we expected. And I hope that in December, I'm sure that in December I can make the same comments. So we're on target. We always are at the end of the year, but we are a little bit more aggressive on anticipating expenses, and we're a little bit conservative on revenues. So those reports are here. We have no appropriation changes for this evening, and I see that we have approval of some minutes that need to be taken care of.
Have a motion?
Why don't you make it, because I wasn't here for the 18th.
I move to approve the minutes for August 4th, 2016. August, is that how you do it?
Yeah.
Yeah, August 18th, 2016. September 1st, 2016, and September 15th, 2016.
Second.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Earth?
Yes, except for August 18th, 2016, where I was absent from that meeting.
Okay. Mr. Pappas?
Yes, I was here.
I was here, too.
All right. Our Law Director, Margaret Comey.
Good evening. There's a resolution before you that would approve a petition received from Broadwell Factory Group, LLC, and BW Holdings Limited Partnership as owners of property within the township located at 8485 Broadwell Road and 4229 Round Bottom Road, seeking the creation of an energy special improvement district. The revised code, by way of background, provides for the creation of special improvement districts, and Section 171002 provides for a specific type of special improvement district known as an energy special improvement district, also referred to as an ESID. These are voluntary organizations of property owners who undertake energy improvement projects and finance those projects by way of voluntary special assessments against their properties. The purpose of an ESID is to enhance property values within the district, improve the environment, and by developing and assisting special energy improvement projects within that district. In this case, the petitioners seek the creation of the Anderson Township, Ohio Energy Special Improvement District, which would be composed initially of only the parcels owned by these petitioners before you now. Other properties may be included in the ESID down the road. There's a mechanism built in for amending the district to include additional properties. That would occur if a property owner voluntarily wanted to undertake this form of financing their improvements. In effect, the township, or in the case of a city or village, the General Assembly has set up this process so that the jurisdiction steps in as the taxing authority and is able to levy assessments against the property. But unlike the type of special assessment that you may be familiar with for sidewalks, sewers, water lines, etc., this is an entirely voluntary program. The property owners will get their financing for those improvements from a third party unrelated to the township, and you'll have no involvement in that financing or obligation with respect to that financing. You're being asked really to bless the creation of the ESID so that the property owner can have their property assessed, and the assessments are then routed back to the provider of the financing of those improvements. I'm happy to address any questions you may have.
Well, actually, I have a question.
Sure.
You said other properties later on can choose to, other property owners can choose. Do they have to be next to it, or can it be anywhere in the township?
I think they can be anywhere so long as they go to, there will be a governing board of this district that will be set up, and there will be representatives from the township. All of the property owners are members of the district, and there is a facilitator for these projects known as the Greater Cincinnati Energy Alliance. That's a nonprofit group that has taken it upon themselves to set up these districts for the benefit of property owners and to involve themselves in what are known as PACE bonds, which are special assessments for property improvements that benefit the environment.
One of the odd things about this program is that in order to start it, there has to be an applicant. That the township or the municipality cannot start the program. It is also specific to each political subdivision. there's some legislation that is hopefully going to move through the state that will change that a bit to maybe allow either a port authority or a county to establish an ESID rather than relying on the individual jurisdictions and make it available to everyone. So that is a topic that we are working on with the Ohio Township Association to try to move that through.
So the process has been entirely driven by, in this case, Broadwell Factory Group and BWE Holdings.
Which is down in the Encore area,
Yes.
Round Bottom, Broadwell, which is good because that area needs, this is an economic development tool, and that area is,
Right.
has some issues. So, I mean, this is a nice thing that property owners down there, or potential property owners down there, can take advantage of, which is kind of
And it's, once it's up
We don't
and
have
running.
sewers, but we got this.
Right, but once it's up and running, I mean, even businesses on anywhere in the township, Beachmont Avenue, that want to change out to more energy efficient lighting or a new HVAC system could take advantage of it.
Okay.
So the resolution accepts and approves the petition and authorizes the township administrator to file the necessary paperwork with the Secretary of State to effect the creation of it.
Okay.
I move to adopt a resolution approving the petition and articles of incorporation for the creation and governance of an energy special improvement district under Ohio Revised Code, Chapter 1710.
Second?
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Great. I have a second matter to discuss. There's another resolution in your package. This is a resolution which authorizes the township administrator to execute a property transfer agreement with Forestville Realty General Partnership. And then it also, on behalf of the board, accepts the donation of approximately 101 acres of property for green space purposes. This property is currently owned by the Forestville Realty Group, General Partnership, and they want to donate it to the township, but they want to do so on certain terms and subject to the conditions of the property transfer agreement. That's why the resolution is before you. So A, it's agreeing to those terms, but B, by statute, you have to accept donations of land for, to be held by the township. So one might ask, what are the conditions and terms? And Forestville Realty has an adjacent property, which they are selling to a third party. And Forestville has asked that this transfer occur prior to December 31 for tax purposes. That's one of the terms. They also have imposed upon the land a sewer line easement, which will benefit the third-party owners of this adjacent property. So you recognize that you're taking it subject to that easement. On your side of the table, not only are you receiving over 100 acres of land, but you have asked Forestville to create the situation with its third-party buyer where you will be the beneficiary of access easements over certain property so that you'll be able to access the green space. So in a nutshell, that's it. I can answer any questions you may have. But the bottom line is, this is a wonderful donation to the township.
So this is the big G, green space.
This is the real green space.
That's correct.
This is the real green space.
Make us close to 800 acres.
800 acres of green space in the township. It's
Okay.
amazing. That's amazing.
Well, and that's not including the Park District
Correct.
or the Hamilton County Park District.
Correct.
And if you add all that up, and I don't know what the exact total is, but it's
A lot.
over 2,000 acres.
A lot.
And that, according to the National Association of Parks and Recreation, based on the number that we have population-wise, and the number of green space you're supposed to have in any given area, Anderson Township has 5 times the national average.
Wow.
Amazing.
Things you learn when you're studying this stuff. So,
Do I have a motion?
I move to authorize property transfer agreement with Forestville Realty and accepting donation of real property and interest therein to the township by Forestville Realty pursuant to the authority of Section 50510 of the revised code.
Second.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Margaret, for the explanations and the good descriptions of everything. Paul?
Well, this has been said already, but I'll say it again. Our draft of the comprehensive plan is ready for review and input. And I wanted to reiterate how important this is. There has been a steering team that has been working on this for about 9 months. We hired a planning consultant called Planning Next and a sub-consultant, McBride Del Clarion, that has taken us through this process. The steering team has guided the process. We had a large public meeting in June, which we called What's Next meeting, and we had over 130 participants in that meeting. We also doubled that on online surveys after the What's Next meeting, and therefore have prepared a draft plan for public comment. The draft plan is available on our website. We had an open house last Tuesday, but if you were unable to attend, the opportunity is still out there to make comment. It has the park numbers, the open space numbers, the green space numbers, but it has a lot of good information in it. And this year, too, one of the, I guess, the characteristics of it is we put the plan on a Word diet so that it's much easier to read. It's about 50% smaller than the other plan, but it has the same amount of information. It's just in an easier format to read. So we encourage you to go to our website to review it, provide feedback, and it will be on our website up until the 31st of this month. At that time, we hope to incorporate any changes that need to be made and potentially start the adoption process. That's all.
Thank you, Paul.
I think I wish the lady that asked about it had stayed to get that information, but maybe she can watch it on ACTV.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you for going outside and addressing the questions. I appreciate that. Matt, Lieutenant Guy, Sheriff's Office. Hi, Matt.
There's just one brief item on the agenda from our department. There is before you a liquor license request transfer. It is for Lakes Venture LLC doing business as Fresh Time Farmers Market. It's at 7910 Beachmont Avenue, and we have no objections as to the location.
Then I move not to object to a liquor license transfer request for Lakes Ventures LLC doing business as Fresh Time Markets located at 7910 Beachmont Avenue.
Second.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes, of course.
Unless the board has anything else, that's all I have.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Matt. Now, Public Works, Mr. Shelley.
Good evening.
Good evening.
This is an annual event for me, the declaration of unimproved and unmaintained roads, allowing the dedicated men of the Public Works Department to plow the streets for the benefit of Dee. This is your first one of these, so try to keep yourself under control. But what this is for is as subdivisions are in construction and private property, private roads, private lanes, the township by law is not allowed to plow those roads unless the board makes action that we can. And then what we can do is if the roads are in bad shape, we plow the roads so safety services can get in to render service to the residents. But these are roads that have not been dedicated yet or have been designated as private. It's fairly rare that we use this opportunity. A couple times in my entire career here we've done it. And so this petition or this request gives me the opportunity to do it legally, and it also gives us the opportunity legally to ask for reimbursement for our services.
That was my question. Are we reimbursed?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a motion.
I move to adopt a resolution declaring an emergency for snow removal on unaccepted roads.
Second.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Thank you, Richard. Mark, come on back up. Fire and Rescue Chief Mark Ober.
Okay, good evening again. We have two items on the agenda. The first one is resolution authorizing the purchase of equipment pursuant to Section 505.101 of the Ohio Revised Code. So what that is for is we started a process over 2 years ago at least with our budgeting process, to replace a Quint. What a Quint is a fire engine, as most of us know, with a ladder on it. It does 5 things. Fire engine does 4. They call it a Quint. So that's probably one of the biggest questions that we answer on a regular basis. In that process, I like to thank everybody involved, from our all director, administrator, and as we keep moving forward, we utilize the state bid process, and for the last 2 years, we've been working on what do we need, what do we need to replace, what needs to go on it, and we had 9 state bid companies that we've been working with. 5 came forward recently, 4 did their homework, made presentations to our support division and a few of our chiefs, and today we finalized the direction we'd like to go. With that said, these funds were put in the budget late 14 for the 2015, and we've been just rolling along trying to iron things out the best we can to replace this truck that'll be at least 13 years old with some residual value.
Yeah, if I could just add, with regard to the funding, the Quint is being purchased with funds that were provided to the township from the Casino Operator Settlement Fund. The initial 2 payments that we received from the state, from the Casino Operator Fund, there were 2 payments of $1 million each. The first was to be utilized for our operating expenses. The second was to be used for capital improvements, and that includes equipment that will be servicing the riverfront area while Belterra Casino is operating. So we used $900 and some odd thousand of those first $1 million payment for this Quint. We also utilized the remainder of those funds for the purchase of some sheriff's cruisers that serve that area. So this is not coming out of public safety levy dollars. This is coming out of the Casino Operator Settlement Fund.
Okay, and so will this give us 2 of those, or?
No, we'll
Or
actually
replace
sell
them?
the one
Okay.
that we currently have.
Okay. Does this one go to the top of Mercy Hospital too?
Yes.
Okay,
The one we have is 109. We've spec'd 105 or larger, and the one we're very interested in is 110.
Okay.
Wow. Do I have a motion?
I move to authorize the purchase of equipment pursuant to Section 505.101 of the Ohio Revised Code.
Second.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes. So that's a lot of equipment. I mean, it's
Yes.
amazing.
And you know, while you were mentioning that, not that there's issues down there, but I think we've probably used our current Quint at least 4 times down there in that Riverfront District at Belterra.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it's all good. It's why we have it and put it to use. So someone might question it's stationed at Clough and Hunley, but it's utilized anywhere in the township, but we have utilized it down there.
I didn't know.
So, with that said, if I could move on to the next thing, since we talked a little bit earlier about the Encore area and some things going on in that part of the township, the next thing we have on the agenda is permission to advertise what we call a mobile office. Over 10 years ago, we expanded the department, expanded the 1973 station by purchasing these 2 devices that go together and as a mobile office. Well, as you're well aware of, as the board, we rent that facility now to the Cincinnati East Terminal Railway. That's working out real well. They have no interest in this facility, and we'd like to put it on our auction site. And with that said, anything over $2,500 has to come in front of the board. We've had our officers do the research, and we'd like to put the minimum bid at $7,500.
Do I have a motion?
I move to adopt a resolution authorizing the sale of unneeded mobile office/job site trailer pursuant to Section 505.10 of the revised code, providing for sale of personal property via internet auction.
Second.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes. So if anyone's in, well, there's no one left. Seriously? They left?
Oh,
Hi, Dad.
yeah. Thank you.
So this trailer.
Oh.
This trailer,
Yes.
$7,500. Are you interested in interesting trades, or is this just cash?
I'll defer that to the administrator.
I figured you'd want to buy the Quint.
He's not allowed.
No,
No.
The,
$900,000. I mean, that's, wow.
yes.
That's wow.
And that's a lot of hard work and effort on our focus group to minimize those costs. There are quints that are in the neighborhood of 1.3 million now.
Wow.
Yeah, we've done a lot of research, a lot of,
What can we fetch for the old one, since no one's here?
we probably will start to bid at least, we're looking at 250,
250?
250,000.
And one of the things that, I know there are some jurisdictions that buy used apparatus,
Or individuals.
and what, through the public bidding process. But what we have found, a lot of those jurisdictions, you know, if your transmission goes out or you have a major issue, you don't have the warranty, you don't have all the guarantees that you have with a new piece of apparatus, and we've stretched ours some, I think, Mark, you said this was 13 years.
Yeah, what's
We've
the
stretched a
average
lot of
life?
our equipment to 14 or 15
It
years.
depends on the use, but this is a good, useful life for us. We have it in our apparatus plan, it's falling right into place. At one time, to answer a question that Ms. Stone had before, we used to have two of them. We reduced to one and sold our second one, just wasn't using it enough. And in the case when this one's out for service, we use mutual aid. We put someone else's on our run card. So it's working out real well for us.
Great. Okay. Can I get on the ladder?
No.
That wasn't
Again, that's
to
a
you
decision
No,
that
I already said no.
this
I already
board
told
can
them
make.
no.
Thank you.
Want our insurance to go up. Thanks, Chief.
No, Andrew.
They said yes.
No. No. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry.
No, you're not.
Liability issue,
Township
sorry.
administrator.
Trustee liability.
Yes, we
That's
did.
right.
Vicki, can I get on the ladder? Yes?
Respectfully, sir, no. No. Only trained firefighters.
It's climbing a ladder, for God's sakes.
And you said you're afraid of heights.
I'm working to overcome it.
We
Vicki?
don't want to give people the impression that anybody can climb one of those ladders. It's extensive training. I have one item for the board's consideration this evening.
No.
There is a resolution that would approve and authorize a cooperative agreement with Anderson Investors LLC. Anderson Investors is the property owner of Anderson Town Center. It is a request that we received from the owner based on a program that the Board of Trustees has established a couple of years ago. Essentially, we utilize TIF dollars for economic development purposes. The board has the authority under the statutes to utilize TIF dollars to pay for demolition in the event that such demolition would promote economic development, would lead to additional tax revenue for the township. The board established this policy where they set aside a certain number of dollars every year for this purpose. And in the case of the Anderson Town Center, the funds that are requested are related to the demolition of a portion of the former Kmart building, also TJI Fridays, and some other structures that were demolished, resulting in the newly developed Anderson Town Center, which most of our residents have seen what's going on there. It's exciting. We've got the new Carmike Theater. We will have Crunch Fitness. We will have Bar Louie and several other establishments. The projected growth up the town center as far as the property value, it's currently valued at about $19 million. We project with these new investments that it will be valued near $30 million. The township receives approximately $13,000 for every $1 million evaluation under our TIF program. And the program that we have established would allow for the board to consider allocating 1 year's worth of TIF revenue on that new growth to provide for the demolition of those structures. In this case, it would amount to about $160,000. So there is a resolution before you that would authorize that cooperative agreement with Anderson Investors.
I move to adopt a resolution approving and authorizing a cooperative agreement with Anderson Investors LLC.
Second.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Garth?
Yes.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Thank you. We don't have anything else this evening.
Thank you. With that, I'd like to remind everybody that our next regular monthly board meeting is November 17th, 2016, 6 p.m. Citizens should call 688-8400 to confirm. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved?
Second.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.